Rewind back a year, and services like curbside pickup or no-contact food delivery were a rarity. People freely roamed stores with no fear or hesitation and spent the weekends out and about rather than on the couch. But 2020 was a year unlike any other. Americans had to adapt in order to get the items they needed. This meant sometimes waiting in long lines or relying more on what's available online. With more people buying from home, retailers worked hard to keep up with the flurry of online orders. As a matter of fact, retail giant Amazon had its most successful year to date, with sales rising close to 40%. In just one quarter from July to September 2020, the e-commerce site reported a revenue of more than $91 billion. To keep up with demand, the company hired hundreds of thousands of people in recent months and now employs more than 1.2 million across the world. And it's not just Amazon that saw a boom. Many traditional brick-and-mortar retailers quickly ramped up their online and mobile app presence to make sure people kept buying from them.
There are strains, absolutely. Whenever you have that big an increase in business in a short period of time, you have companies racing to catch up with it.
That's Lawrence Ingrassia, former business editor and deputy managing editor at the New York Times and author of the book Billion Dollar Brand Club. Ingrassia says the influx of at-home buyers has created a rat race of retailers all trying to increase their online infrastructure.
Just about every major retailer has had to up its game to provide better customer service as far as e-commerce. Because if they didn't, they were going to lose revenue, they were going to lose sales to Amazon, they were going to fall behind. And they were going to lose sales to startups, many of which were built exclusively to be able to deliver goods quickly to customers. So there's been this convergence that's happening. But the whole focus now is, as e-commerce increases, how do we do it more efficiently? How do we handle orders more efficiently? How do we deliver them more efficiently? And so you've had a lot of venture capital money pouring into the logistics world, whether it's making warehouses more efficient, whether it's making trucking more efficient, all designed to get stuff to you faster.
One aspect that plays into this is the role of automation in warehouses. Ingrassia highlights the company Locus Robotics that supplies autonomous robots that operate alongside warehouse employees to speed up the fulfillment process.
This has enabled them to increase the efficiency of these warehouses dramatically, kind of working kind of double or triple what a person could do. Now, Locus has been very successful. It's one of the leading companies there, but it's not the only one. There have been, kind of a half dozen or a dozen new robotics companies working to increase the productivity and efficiency in warehouses. And I think this automation is the way to go. It hasn't replaced workers. I think that's important to note. You still have a lot of workers being hired.
Business is booming, but only for select retailers. Retail brands must be e-commerce savvy these days or risk falling into the graveyard of bankrupt brick-and-mortar namestays.
So Walmart, for example, and Target, two other very big retailers, recognized in the past couple of years that if they don't catch up, if they don't offer a similar service, then they're going to fall behind. And so both of them have invested a lot of money in logistics. Target, in fact, bought a company that specializes in next-day delivery.
Go back just a few years, and it was only Amazon in this space with Amazon Prime. As e-commerce has grown over the years, so has the number of sellers offering a massive variety of products that would otherwise be unavailable online. Many of these smaller businesses operate on a platform like Amazon or Etsy or use independent, direct-to-consumer models.
The e-commerce revolution and the low cost of launching a product and the low barrier of entry have created an opportunity for niche players to build nice businesses. One of my favorite examples is a company called Lensable. And Lensable is a company that basically kind of sells you new lenses that they'll put in your existing frames. So let's say you bought kind of a pair of eyeglass frames a couple of years ago, and they're a very nice pair of eyeglass frames. If you go to LensCrafters or somebody like that, they want to sell you a new solid pair of frames because frames are expensive. And you're thinking, I really want just to get lenses for my new prescription. I get a new prescription. Let's say you get a new prescription every year or two, and you really like the frames. Well, now you can send that to them and your frames to them with your new prescription, and they'll send it back to you at a much lower cost, and you're saving the cost of a new frame. That business couldn't have existed 10 years ago.
Ingrassia makes the point that these smaller brands won't ever be billion-dollar companies like Amazon or Walmart, but they turn a profit because they meet a specific demand in the marketplace.
I think the upside of this e-commerce revolution and new brand revolution is that consumers have a lot more choice, and choice is generally good for consumers. The key is trying to figure out what does the customer need that hasn't been filled. Look, a lot of small businesses have real challenges during the pandemic, obviously, especially restaurants, but also the pandemic has created opportunities for small businesses to connect with consumers. Consumers are more willing to buy a variety of things online, and so that's why you have a lot of startups, because they recognize this is an opportunity to reach people and to get people to change their buying habits.
During the pandemic, more Americans have also embraced automatic subscription boxes, and it's not just razors or meal kit memberships anymore. There's everything for every interest, including several different baking box brands that send a different recipe and ingredients in each home delivery. Ingrassia also mentions BarkBox, a monthly subscription that ships different items for your dog each month. You may be surprised to hear that in 2020, BarkBox generated more than $224 million in revenue.
They're going to go public at a value, I think, of more than $1 billion. And again, I'm not sure that would have happened a year ago. The company's been around a while, but I presume that its business has picked up quite a bit in the past year as people say, hey, it's easier for me to buy this stuff online. I don't have to go into stores. And one of the interesting things is going to be how much will these change consumer habits remain changed, and how much will it reverse, will people start going back to stores? And I think that there'll be some returning to physical stores, but I think a lot of the stuff that people are doing, a lot of the buying online, once people get used to doing it, a lot of them won't go back. They'll say, you know what, this is actually so easy for me to do.
Like anything, e-commerce has its pros and cons, but it's here to stay for the foreseeable future. One of the upsides the Internet offers aspiring entrepreneurs is an opportunity to turn an idea, no matter how niche or out there, into reality. To find out more about this topic and our guest, Lawrence Ingrassia, visit viewpointsradio.org. You can also find his book, Billion Dollar Brand Club, in bookstores and online. To get more behind the scenes, check out Viewpoints Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price. Coming up on Viewpoints.
Education has only ever had one thing in mind, at least from my viewpoint, from the ground level, and that's how can we take care of our students and make sure they learn.
The demands of teaching during an almost year-long pandemic. Then,
I found myself caring so much and getting so upset that I called my sister and I said, what is happening to me?
The emotional roller coaster of youth sports. I'm Marty Peterson.
And I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows. And find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.